A middle school teacher and a talking rock save their worlds 11 million light years away, and the result?
Fist my bump.
Confessions of a Film Poser!
Welcome to Confessions of a Film Poser, the show where we admit that we've been lying about seeing classic movies, but now we're actually going to watch them. I'm Eli.
Hey, and I'm Vince. This week's lie is Project Hell... Wait, we've seen this movie.
And we've read the book. Does this mean...
Dude, we're not posers anymore.
We're not posers anymore!
Amaze! Amaze! I hit my monitor so hard.
Project Hail Mary is based on the novel by Andy Weir, the same guy who wrote The Martian. It's about a middle school teacher who wakes up alone in space with no memory and realizes he's humanity's last shot at survival. And somehow, it's also about friendship. And speaking of friendship, Vince, how are you doing, buddy?
Hey, dude, I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing good, dude. I'm stoked because we finally get to talk about a movie that we've been anticipating for months, that we've seen, but we also have read the book. You read it a couple months ago and finished it. I literally finished it the day before at the buzzer. I crammed like I was in college, but I got it done and I was so grateful for it. But right off the bat, let's get into it. What did you think about Project Hail Mary? This can be a two-part question because I want to know what you thought of the movie, and then I want to know how you thought the movie stacked up to the book.
Yeah, I was a huge fan of the book, so I was really excited going into this. And my expectations were met, dude. This movie was fantastic. There's a little bit of a difference between some of the book aspects and the movie, but of course the book can fit so much more detail than you can in a 2.5 hour movie. But I really, really liked this, and I saw it this weekend, and I've been excited to jump on here and talk to you about it. What do you think?
I loved it. I was shocked at how much I loved it. I mean, the kind of early reviews have been rolling in and people calling it a masterpiece. And I thought it was very, very good. I thought it lined up with the book very well. You know, there's always an initial shock when you read a book and it's 12 hours long. I kind of did a hybrid. I read the physical book and I read the audio book. The audio book was narrated by a guy named Ray Porter on Audible. He was fantastic, and he did so much. He did all the character voices and everything. So
Yeah, I think that's the one I listened to.
After you listen to a book or you read a book, and then you go into the movie, because the movie, by the very nature of the medium, has to be abbreviated. So there's a little bit of that shock. But I thought, man, the Herculean task of having to cut something down from 12 hours to 2.5 is not easy. And I think that they made it its own distinct thing, separate from the book. But also, they accompany each other very well. Like, you are benefited if you have read the book before you've seen the movie. Is that pretty fair?
Yeah, I think that's super fair. And then a lot of the details that were missing were like, there was a lot of like mathematical equations in the book that didn't really fit in the movie, I guess, and that's why they didn't really include them. My girlfriend also listened to the book, and she didn't actually care for all the mathematical equations in the book. She was kind of confused about what was happening. So whenever we saw this movie together, she was excited that was all out of here, and it was just the story of Rylan Grace and his buddy Rocky, and them saving both their planets. So it was good, man.
See, I thought that the science, and that is the biggest thing that I don't even think it's a complaint, but that is the biggest thing missing from the movie that was in the book, is they really took their time in explaining the science. And I felt like they did it in a way that even if you don't know anything about math or science or, space or space exploration or, rocket science, any of that stuff, they broke it down in a way that was understandable and palatable for the, layperson, which I definitely am. So I thought that was really good. One of the things about the book that's really amazing, and why I feel like it is so endearing in a story, because you literally start at the very beginning and you're in the place of Rylan Grace. You don't know anything about the story. You don't know about anything about why he's there, and he doesn't either. And the book really takes its time rolling that out and explaining. And the interesting thing is, like, the flashbacks to Earth and the stuff that happened before, him discovering astrophage and Strat coming in, all of that stuff works as like a memory in real time that addresses the situation that Ryland Grace is in at the moment, and he'll think of it and be like, oh, I know this, why do I know this? And the memory will serve as the explanation as to why. They did a lot of that in this, but not obviously in depth like they could in the book. The way he plays Ryland Grace at the beginning of the story, just waking up from a space coma that he was basically forced into, and not knowing anything about his mission or why he's there, and it has to all come back to him. He played it in such an interesting way.
Yeah, he woke up and was instantly like, okay, well, I'm dead. I'm just going to drink all this vodka I found and not even like try to do anything because I'm helpless. Is how it kind of came off.
And he discovers, there's two other passengers with him that are dead, and he doesn't know who they are initially, but as time goes on, the memories kind of flood back and the emotions with that, and kind of the grief that comes along with his two friends being dead and him, remembering. And so that kind of sobers him up a little bit. But yeah, he's almost like the dude, he's like the space dude where he's just kind of like, I don't know why I'm here. I feel crazy. So I'm just going to try to have fun with it. And that's kind of the way he plays it.
Yeah, he just abides, dude.
So Gosling really is the star of this movie, obviously, but he really holds the whole thing together. His performance is truly great, and it'll be interesting to see if this movie on the whole, if it gets some Academy Award love next year, because everything, the score was incredible. Some of the visuals, the cinematography. I read a thing today that there was no green screen. There's not a shot in that movie that has green screen. It's all physical. As the story goes on, he meets an alien who's basically out in space to figure out why astrophage it's not eating. There's one specific star and one specific, is it the Petrova, right? The Petrova line?
The Petrova line is the line of the aliens leaving the sun to go to Venus.
Right.
And then they find that there's one planet where there's the Petrova line, but it's not eating the sun. I can't remember the name of that sun. I was just looking for
It's Talceti, right?
Talceti,
the name.
Yes.
Talceti is the name of the star that it's eating. So both Rocky, who's this alien, literally looks like a rock spider. And you're going to see, if you haven't seen this movie, you're going to see Rocky everywhere for like the next 3 months. All practical puppeteering, no CGI, which I thought was great. But
which is great, yeah.
He talks, but he talks in like a very musical, like in chords, like musical chords. And Ryland figures out a way to translate that into English. So of course they create this bond and this friendship that's awesome. That like should be impossible to do. That was done really well in the book and was done almost better in the movie, I thought. But yeah, that relationship was really great. And there's a lot of ups and downs, but across the board, man, I don't really have, I don't have anything that I could really pick apart other than some of it was less dense than the book. That usually is a good thing. In this one, if you're coming off the book, then it's a little bit of a disappointment. Not huge because this is its own medium.
Yeah, I think my only like gripe about the difference between the two is, you kind of already touched on it, the way that they do flashbacks in the book. It's him remembering these incidents and like who he is, what's happening. In the movie, they did that visually, but I don't feel like they addressed that like this was him just remembering this. It felt like they were just flashbacks. It didn't feel like after the flashback he like took in like, oh, I just remembered this. You know what I mean? Which would probably be hard to do acting wise, especially when you're talking to a rock. But it wasn't addressed at all. It was just flashback back to him. So I don't know. I feel like they didn't connect those lines, because in the book he's like literally talking to himself and he's like, oh my God. But spoilers, by the way, we're so far into this, but spoilers. But he's like, oh my God, I thought I was a hero and I came here to save the world, and it turns out that I'm a failure, and I said no, and then they drugged me and threw me in here anyways.
Yeah, so that's a big that's kind of the twist of the movie, is that there's a certain amount they figured out that they're going to have to put all of the astronauts that are going out to Talceti, they're going to have to put them in like a coma for what, like 10 or 11 years, a long time. And there's
a long time.
A lot of humans can't survive that, but I think it's 1 out of every 1,000 humans. I'm sure I'm wrong about that.
Yeah, there's a specific gene that they talked about in the book, and it turns out that he had it and he was there during training the whole time. So he is the person that's going.
Okay, so let me ask you then, what was like a moment in this movie that stood out to you and stood out to you separate from the book, right? Because the book you're creating the movie in your head, and in this one they're giving you the visuals, and that's also a very kind of hard thing to separate.
Yeah, totally.
For this movie, I think that it's so stylized in the way that it's shot. Chris Miller, I think, and Phil Lord are the directors. Dude, these guys did like 21 Jump Street. They were on the Han Solo movie and then taken off when it was 70% done by Kathleen Kennedy and Lucasfilm and replaced by Ron Howard. What these guys did with this is incredible. I mean, written by Drew Goddard, who also wrote The Martian, Buffy guy, also wrote and directed with Joss Whedon in Cabin in the Woods. But Drew Goddard is awesome, and it's very much like The Martian, only this one is more complex because you're dealing in things that are like so far outside your solar system, literally. But what is something that like stood out from you, separate from the book, that was specific to this movie?
I could be wrong in this. I don't remember Grace's relationship with the security guard Carl in the book. And in this movie, I absolutely loved that friendship. And it almost hurt more whenever they had to drug him and throw him in because Carl's like back to work. But like the whole montage of them like going to Lowe's or whatever and getting Skittles and like just messing around and having fun, even though it's the end of the world, but like they still are doing science and having fun. I feel like in the book, I don't remember that happening as much. And in the movie, that was one of my favorite like friendships that was made early on. I thought it was really fun and kind of set the tone for the movie that although this is like a space mathematical movie, there's still going to be a lot of fun in it. And I'm sure that just was added by the fact that it's Ryan Gosling, and I would love to hang out with him. I'd be his Carl, dude.
I just pictured like the plot of Lars and the Real Girl, but instead of like you're the doll or you're Ryan Gosling and you're the doll. Yeah. You just saying you just quoting La La Land and, you know, trying to get him to dance with you. And he's like, dude, relax. Okay.
I saw it move. I think it's a real person.
What do you mean you saw it? What was it? You don't want to know. I thought it was made of wood, but it was apparently just like that the whole time. Yeah, I thought that was great, man. Because they have to go a little bit more dark and emotional towards the end. The beginning really is, I won't call it a comedy, but it really is funny. Ryan Gosling was in The Nice Guys with Russell Crowe, which is one of my favorite movies. It's hilariously funny, Shane Black movie, and his comedic chops are up there. So he does a really good job. For me, I loved this sequence that wasn't in the book of Strat, where she's singing karaoke. She's singing Sign of the Times. And Strat was a character to me going into this I really wanted them to do correctly, because in the book, she's this ultimate bureaucrat with the ultimate power. But she is so gung-ho and dedicated to saving humanity that it's like what you would want in a bureaucratic situation like that. And she's willing to sacrifice people that she likes, which she really comes to respect Ryland Grace. And, you know, when she has to drug him against his will and send him to the ship. And, you know, there's so many times, there's so many instances where she's like, yeah, I don't want to do this, but I don't care. Like we're talking into the world and billions of people dying or, you know, making harsh sacrifices. And there was many scenes in that. Strat didn't have as much of a presence in the movie as she does in the book. In the book, they make a point of making her almost scary of how powerful she is.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's what it would take to get this crazy concept together. But she did a superb job. I mean, just bringing her to life. And I really love that character. I loved her in the movie, and I was so happy that they did her correctly, because that can also ruin a movie too when they're adapting a book, is like certain characters you really love.
Yeah.
But Sandra Hüller plays Eva Strat. Lionel Boyce played Carl. He's actually from The Bear. James Ortiz did Rocky. He's the puppeteer and the voice. He crushed it too. Just did a great job. But those are the principal players.
Hold on. You're cutting out a key player in this, dude.
Sorry?
The AT&T girl.
Yeah, she wasn't
Dude,
really in
the
it that much.
AT&T girl?
I think she was T-Mobile, wasn't she?
I could be right. No, it's AT&T. I believe
I'll
it's
go
AT&T.
to war over the cellular
Dude,
wars,
I'll go to war right now because she is loved online because they were pissed because she was for years the AT&T girl and she always had that up. And then whenever she got fired, she showed up online and that was on.
Hold on. Is this going to be one of those creepy Vince
It's
comments?
creepy Vince, dude, but for AT&T girl, I'll go.
Is this going to be one of those texts I get from Vince? Is like, dude, was I too creepy the other night?
No, here it is. AT&T girl, dude.
AT&T girl. All right, AT&T girl was in it. Yeah, she was, and her name, of course, is Milana Vaintrub. She was supposed to be Squirrel Girl, but they canceled the show.
Dude, that's perfect.
I think we talked a little bit about maybe what didn't work as well, and I think we both come down that it's just the science of it, and I agree with you in the flashbacks. You know, they were used so well, but I think also what this movie did is it didn't, for the people that did read the book, it didn't give you like the whole, there's like these 4 probes that are on board that have enough astrophage to go back to Earth. So in the event when Ryland Grace dies, the information that he finds on why the Petrova line and why the astrophage isn't killing Talsetti, and they're named the Beatles. There's John Paul, Ringo, and John Paul. What? How could I miss
Teddy?
John Paul, Ringo, and George.
Oh, yeah.
And they don't talk about that until they literally send them off, and then they play Two of Us, and they show the names of the different ones. But there's stuff like that where they did what a movie should do, and they showed you instead of tell you why. Yeah. And I felt like it was kind of that way with the flashbacks. And they there was a couple scenes where it would cut back to him quickly, and he would almost like be remembering. But yeah, they made it was more impactful in the book because it dealt directly with what was going on in the story in that moment on the 2 different timelines. So yeah, but there wasn't a lot, man. This is also like a family. I can't imagine being like 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 and seeing this movie. And the emotional beats and everything. This is kind of like, I don't know. A lot of people are comparing it to E.T. I think it's better than E.T. E.T. has never been one of my favorite movies, but I think the emotional impact on young, girls and boys seeing this, I think it's definitely going to get people interested in space, and, especially if you read the book. But I was sitting there going, man, I wonder if I was seeing this at a, young age, the impact that it would have in the magic. And I thought it was a very magical movie. It really took me back to a time when you went to a movie and there was awe and wonder involved. And there was a lot of that in this movie. And I'm very, very happy to see that it's getting the love, and it's probably going to crush the box office. And I think it's going to be one of those movies that has a lot of legs because of word of mouth. And I think the movie-going audience is craving stuff like this.
For
practical,
sure, dude. Big budget,
visually practical
stunning
sets. Like you're not being preached at. Like, here's a story. It's a hopeful story. There's peaks and valleys to it. There's a leading man that you can love and want to be his real girl doll, like Vince.
Yeah, there's the AT&T girl.
The AT&T girl with buttoned up. There's, a toy potential maybe with Rocky, but it just had everything. And I really am stoked. Oh, these guys also did the Lego movie. Oh, they also did the Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Yeah, dude.
So
I wonder. So you've seen The Martian, right? Just real quick.
I recently watched it again. I love that movie.
I feel like that movie was too mathematical and sciencey, and like although that is the basis of the movie, I feel like when it comes to a movie that you can rewatch over and over, that one they relied heavily on the science aspects of the movie, and this one it seems like they figured out how to like tone it back a little bit to focus more on an entertaining story rather than like a scientific exploration of what would actually happen, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think what it comes down to is the style of the filmmakers too. Even though it was written by the same guy, it's really on display. Those are 2 great contrasts in 2 different movies. I think The Martian is entertaining on a separate level. It kind of has similar, the Matt Damon. You love Matt Damon in that movie, and he holds those scenes down where he's by himself. But visually, The Martian isn't what Project Hail Mary is. The scene where he's up in space and he's like, there's the green planet. It's what's the name of the planet? It's Adrian, right? They name it Adrian after Rocky's wife because they've watched Rocky, which I don't know that was in the book either. The Rocky tie-in that he shows him, the movie Rocky. Anyway,
I don't think that whole screen thing was part of the book.
Yeah, I don't either. But when he's just like, when he's, and Rocky's going like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm just living in the moment. Like, it was awesome. It's like this guy that's in the middle of a situation that would be absolutely terrifying and rises to the occasion. And I just it's been a minute. I can't really point to a movie where it's been that, we recently just watched Marty Supreme and loved it, but you love it for a completely different reason. And this movie just had kind of everything. The score was excellent as well.
All in all, this is a great movie, and this is, to jump ahead to our rating, this is a must-buy for me.
We do a rating system here on Confessions of a Film Poser, and Vince takes this literally every week, but we
Not
rate
this
it
week.
as, would you buy it, would you stream it, or would you watch it on TV? Would you buy it? Would you put up your hard-earned cash to own this movie and add it to your collection forever? Would you stream it on a service that you already pay for if it popped up as a new movie? Or would you wait and watch it on TV while you presumably you're sick or you're in the middle of a nap and it just happened to be on TNT, and so you're like, all right, I'll watch it. And Vince has already buried the lead by saying that he would buy it. I would absolutely buy it. I'm going to buy this on whatever Steelbook, physical, 4K, 17 disc, whatever release they come out with. I'm buying it. And I cannot wait until this is, I mean, I can't wait till this comes home, but also seeing it in IMAX. And I'm bummed because there's a 70 millimeter IMAX in certain places in the country.
Yeah,
and
they had it in Portland, dude.
Yeah, I would absolutely buy it. Can't wait to buy it. Can't wait to watch it again. We'll be back next week. We're going to watch To Live and Die in LA for the first time ever. It's been sitting on our shelves and we've been putting it off, but we're going to watch it. So come on back, hit subscribe, hit like, come interact with us. Come put your confessions of a movie you've been lying about that you've seen you never really have in the comments, and maybe we'll watch it. Thanks so much, guys.
Yeah.
See you later. Bye.
Confessions of a Film Poser.